In America, that the pop star Michael Jackson has died.
On June 25, 2009, the world stopped in its tracks. News broke that Michael Jackson, the undisputed king of pop, had passed away, leaving fans stunned and disbelieving from Los Angeles to London to Tokyo. His death wasn't just a headline. It became one of the most scrutinized cases in modern entertainment history, filled with unanswered questions, medical missteps, and a timeline that still raises eyebrows today. So what actually happened in those final hours before Jackson took his last breath? Let's walk through it piece by piece. The story begins the night before at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, where Jackson was deep into rehearsals for his highly anticipated comeback tour. Witnesses say he seemed focused and energized, running through fan favorites like Billie Jean and Earth Song with his usual precision. He laughed with his dancers, moved through his signature steps, and gave no outward sign that anything was wrong. Director Kenny Ortega, who oversaw the rehearsal, later said there was nothing alarming about his behavior that night. By midnight, the session wrapped on a high note. Jackson thanked his team, climbed into a lift to wave goodbye, and left in a convoy of black SUVs. Nobody in that building had any idea they had just witnessed his final performance. Online, a widely circulated split image claims to show what Jackson was doing in his last hours. One side showing him alert and dressed for rehearsal, the other showing him lying pale and motionless. It's a striking comparison, but here's the catch. Nobody has confirmed these images are genuine. Investigators and journalists alike have never verified their authenticity, so it's worth taking that viral photo with a heavy dose of skepticism. After leaving the Staples Center, Jackson's car moved quietly through the streets of Holmby Hills, escorted by a security team led by bodyguard Alberto Alvarez. Riding in the back of his SUV, Jackson appeared calm, tired, but composed. The convoy eventually reached the gates of his rented mansion on Carrollwood Drive, a property he'd leased for months while preparing for his tour. Inside, the house was mostly quiet. Only a handful of people were still awake, including his personal chef, a nanny, and his physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, who was already stationed upstairs, waiting. That night, the mansion operated under tight secrecy. Staff members had signed confidentiality agreements, and most of the doors throughout the home were shut and locked. Jackson's children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, were sound asleep, completely unaware of what was unfolding just steps away. Downstairs, his chef had prepared a meal, but Jackson barely touched it, his appetite nearly gone. The house was silent except for the occasional hum of the refrigerator and faint chatter from security radios. Upstairs, only one person had access to Jackson's room, and that was Dr. Murray, who kept everyone else out, believing he alone could manage Jackson's ongoing battle with sleeplessness. That battle wasn't new. For years, Jackson had struggled with severe insomnia, a condition former bandmates say pushed him to the brink of exhaustion during past tours. By 2009, his sleeplessness had become dangerous. He'd grown reliant on a powerful anesthetic called propofol, which he referred to privately as his milk, believing it was the only thing capable of putting him to rest. Dr. Murray, despite being a cardiologist and not an anesthesiologist, had been quietly purchasing large quantities of the drug from suppliers in Las Vegas and shipping it back to Los Angeles for weeks leading up to that night. As the night wore on, Jackson's condition grew worse. Sleep deprivation combined with the physical toll of nightly rehearsals had pushed him to a breaking point. Behind his locked bedroom door, Dr. Murray began administering a series of sedatives, a decision that would ultimately prove fatal due to gross oversight and mismanagement. Around 1:30 in the morning, Murray started with a mild sedative to help Jackson relax. When that didn't work, he moved on to stronger medications, administering them intravenously in the hopes of finally getting Jackson to sleep. Still, nothing worked. Jackson remained wide awake, anxious, and repeatedly asking for his milk. Hours passed, more drugs were given, and still there was no relief. By mid-morning, exhausted and desperate, Murray finally gave in and administered the drug Jackson had been begging for. Within moments, Jackson grew still, his breathing slowed, and he drifted into what would become his final sleep. According to later accounts pieced together from Murray's own statements, Jackson's last conscious words were simple. He reportedly told Murray he wanted to wake up and have his milk, a phrase that had become almost routine between them. It's a haunting detail. The man who once sang about healing the world, spending his final moments asking for the very substance that would ultimately end his life. What happened next may be the most damning part of this entire story. While Jackson lay unconscious, Murray reportedly stepped away, making phone calls unrelated to his patient's care. Records later showed he contacted his clinic, spoke with an employee, and even called a woman he was in a relationship with. During this window, he failed to monitor Jackson using basic safety equipment that should have been standard procedure whenever powerful sedatives are involved. Investigators later noted that phone records placed him moving around the house, despite his claims that he'd only stepped into the bathroom for a few minutes. Meanwhile, downstairs, the household had no idea anything was wrong. That morning, breakfast was prepared as usual for Jackson's children, simple, ordinary, routine. But around midday, the calm shattered. Footsteps thundered down the stairs, followed by frantic calls for help. Murray burst into the kitchen, visibly panicked, shouting for someone to call security and get the children out of the house. Staff scrambled to shield the kids from what was happening, while paramedics rushed inside moments later. What had once been a peaceful family breakfast spot instantly became the center of a medical emergency. From here, the accounts started conflict. Murray claimed he'd only stepped out briefly and returned to find Jackson unresponsive, though still warm, with a faint pulse. But Alvarez, the bodyguard who rushed in to help, described something very different. Jackson's eyes and mouth open, his skin already cool to the touch. That contradiction raised serious questions. Later forensic analysis suggested Jackson had likely been without oxygen far longer than Murray's account implied, casting doubt on the timeline he provided police. Perhaps the most scrutinized detail in the entire case is the gap between when Murray realized something was wrong and when he actually called for emergency help. Phone records show that instead of dialing 911 immediately, Murray spent nearly half an hour on a call with an acquaintance, followed by another call to a separate contact. During this time, according to testimony, he also gathered medical evidence in the room, placing vials and equipment into a bag before finally alerting emergency services. That decision, prioritizing cleanup over immediate crisis response, would later become one of the most damaging pieces of evidence against him. Finally, at just after 12:20 in the afternoon, a panicked emergency call went out. The young bodyguard on the line begged for an ambulance, explaining that the doctor present said Jackson wasn't breathing. In the background, Murray could be heard asking if anyone knew how to perform CPR properly, a startling admission for a licensed physician. The dispatcher tried walking him through proper technique, but by then, valuable time had already slipped away. When this call was later played in court, it stood as a chilling record of a crisis that had been unfolding in silence for far too long. Paramedics arrived just minutes later and found Jackson lying on the floor, unresponsive, with no signs of life. Something about the scene struck first responders as unusual. The intravenous line was still in place, and the room felt oddly staged. Despite clear signs that resuscitation likely wouldn't succeed, protocol required paramedics to follow the instructions of the attending physician, so they continued efforts and transported Jackson to the hospital. Strangely, the ambulance made its way to UCLA Medical Center without using lights or sirens, a detail that later fueled speculation about how seriously the situation had been treated in those final moments. Inside the vehicle, Murray continued attempting resuscitation, though paramedics couldn't confirm any of the vital signs he claimed to detect. At the hospital, emergency room doctors launched an intense, coordinated effort to revive him. Despite exhausting every possible measure, their attempts proved unsuccessful. Murray reportedly stood off to the side, visibly emotional, seemingly reluctant to accept what was happening. After more than an hour of effort, doctors made the difficult decision to officially pronounce Michael Jackson dead. Outside, word had already begun to spread, and family members started arriving at the hospital as the world braced for the news. In the days and weeks that followed, Jackson's music surged back into the spotlight, with multiple albums climbing the charts once again. A documentary chronicling his final rehearsals became one of the highest-grossing concert films ever released, breathing new life into what had been a financially strained estate. His memorial service drew an audience of over 1 billion viewers worldwide, cementing his lasting influence on music, fashion, and performance for generations to come. Even in tragedy, his artistic legacy remained untouched by the circumstances of his death. But even before his death was made official, signs of a cover-up were already emerging. Security personnel later testified that Murray appeared to be hastily collecting medical vials and instructing others to hide certain items before authorities arrived. When police eventually searched the property, they discovered numerous medications hidden in unusual places throughout the home, raising further questions about what had really been happening behind closed doors. That search revealed an unsettling collection of medical supplies tucked away in Murray's belongings, mismatched vials, unmarked containers, and equipment far beyond what a home setting should ever contain. Investigators noted the presence of an oxygen tank and several partially used bottles of sedatives. Records showed Murray had been ordering large amounts of the anesthetic for weeks, with shipments sent not to a hospital, but to a private residence. What they found painted the picture of an improvised medical setup entirely unsuited for the powerful drugs being used inside it. A formal examination of Jackson's body took place shortly after his death. Physically, aside from a few expected marks from past surgeries, his organs appeared to be in surprisingly good health for someone his age. However, his lungs showed signs consistent with breathing difficulties in his final moments. Toxicology results ultimately confirmed what many had suspected: a dangerous mix of sedatives in his system, with the anesthetic drug as the primary cause. Officials ruled the death a homicide, pointing directly to negligence and a severe lack of proper medical oversight. Just 2 days after Jackson's passing, investigators sat down with Dr. Murray for a lengthy, multi-hour interview. Throughout the conversation, inconsistencies began to surface almost immediately. At first, Murray denied giving Jackson the anesthetic altogether. But once confronted with purchase records proving otherwise, he changed his story, admitting he had, in fact, been administering the drug nightly for weeks. He attempted to place blame on Jackson himself, claiming pressure from a singer left him with no choice. Investigators found his shifting explanations, along with unexplained gaps in the timeline, deeply suspicious. Much of this tragedy traces back to the immense pressure Jackson was under. His upcoming tour involved dozens of sold-out shows overseas, representing enormous financial stakes for everyone involved. Contracts reportedly placed significant responsibility on Jackson personally if performances were canceled. Rehearsals often stretched late into the night, demanding intense physical exertion. Those close to him during this period described him as visibly thinner and more fragile than usual, both physically and emotionally. Despite these warning signs, the schedule pushed forward, leaving little room for rest or recovery. Medical experts have since pointed to the extremely dangerous combination of drugs used that night. The anesthetic Jackson had grown dependent on is meant to be administered only in controlled medical settings, under constant professional supervision, never for everyday sleep. When combined with multiple sedatives already in his system, the effect on his body was catastrophic, severely limiting his ability to breathe. According to medical findings, this combination ultimately caused his heart to stop. Without immediate monitoring or emergency equipment nearby, there was little chance of preventing what followed. By mid-afternoon that day, the mansion fell completely silent. Jackson's children had already been quietly taken away, and the remaining staff had been dismissed. The property was sealed off as news helicopters began circling overhead. Inside those now empty rooms, investigators spent the following hours documenting everything, piecing together the final chapter of a man whose life had captivated audiences around the globe. By nightfall, the entire world knew that Michael Jackson had died, but the deeper story behind those locked doors would take months to fully come to light. His final hours remain one of the most examined cases in modern history, a sobering reminder of how fame, pressure, and unchecked medical decisions can collide with devastating consequences.